We can certainly say that tomorrow's marquee fixture at the World Cup is undoubtedly the Springboks versus the All Blacks at the International Stadium in Yokohama. Now, both these nations have won the Webb Ellis Trophy more than once, and their fierce rivalry is certainly one for the history books. Tonight, joining us right here on Sports on Full View, we've roped in the best in the game in terms of the sporting minds to really talk about this mouth-watering fixture. In studio with me, we have Lunga, Kupiso, as well as Thando, Mxoli. Good evening, gentlemen. Welcome, and thank you so much for joining me.
Hello.
Pleasure.
Thank you. So first things first, we see you dressed for the occasion. First things first, Thando, let's talk about the form of both of these teams going into the World Cup in general, both on a physical as well as mental level.
Physically, both teams have had decent results. Unfortunately, I think psychologically the New Zealanders will be a bit worried because they've had some indifferent results in the last 2 years. South Africa, for example, have had positive results against them. I think 2 out of the 3 times they've faced each other in the last 2 years. South Africa, even though they've managed those positive results, I don't know about the results against other nations. I think we've actually been rather ordinary against other nations, but luckily for us against New Zealand, I think we've done exceptionally well in the last 2 years, which is, I suppose it's a positive.
Now, this is a game we've been waiting for 4 long years in terms of a World Cup setup. Who's going to walk away victorious in this encounter?
It's going to be the side that wants it the most. And I think both sides are going to go into the game with a mindset and a mentality of a switched-on side, knowing who they're playing. I mean, it doesn't get bigger than the All Blacks playing against New Zealand at the World Cup. All the other nations there know. It's
actually ironic you're saying the side that wants it the most. Both teams want it the most. The egos of the mighty All Blacks have been bruised. South Africa have also got a point to prove that they do belong at the top of the food chain, and they've shown how good they are, as we've seen in the past 2 years. But in terms of want, both teams are hurting. It's been nice. It's actually been nice seeing the 2 coaches having a little sparring match in the media, and that's what you want. You don't want any friendliness before a game. It should be.
We want the rivalry to be real, to be genuine, and not just a front when the 2 teams get on the field.
Definitely.
And that's what it's all about. Although I do fear that perhaps the difference is going to be in the midfield, how the combinations work in the center pairings. So perhaps that's where it could be.
Okay. Let's delve in deeper on that. So there's a couple of areas of interest in the game, but one of these areas has been the breakdowns, right? So very interesting. Thando, who's going to win this battle and how and why?
It's difficult to say who's going to win the battle because like the coaches have said in the week, it depends how the breakdown is blown. In terms of ability, purely on ability, both teams have got proper contenders in that area. I mean, like you look at South Africa, we've got Dwayne Vermeulen, Malcolm Marx, even as Siya Kolisi, who might not get the turnover, but he's influential in the contact areas. So it's a tricky one in the sense that the ref is going to play a big one, and unfortunately the ref has not been on our side in a lot of the occasions. But we'll see. I think the fact that we've alerted the whole world that it would be nice if it was blown fairly will put extra pressure on the ref to blow it differently.
Be impartial.
But both sides, I mean, like Sam Kane for the All Blacks, he's also a monster on the ground. So it's a difficult one.
Perhaps something also to take into consideration behind the ref being a topic is who comes off the bench and makes a big impact on the game. So, for example, our big focus in South Africa is that Trevor Nyagane doesn't start. And perhaps Rassie is already planning that because of humidity, etc., Trevor coming off the bench on good form leading up to the World Cup, he could be the difference. Whereas in for New Zealand, Henson has gone the other way around, wanting to play guys who have shown that they've got the form, and that could be a card that blows up.
That's another interesting one because that goes to game management. Because on a lot of these occasions, the 2 positive results we got against New Zealand, we came from behind. You talking about getting the points early for New Zealand, that's a focal point. But also, if we keep within striking distance, we've got the bench to win this game. We've got we've got proven game players who have won big matches before. And that for me is the danger in the South African side, is that even though if you don't blow them away,
yes,
they can always come back at you in those last 10-15 minutes, and that's a positive.
Is that not also a bit true of the New Zealand team as well? Because they're the team that it's not over until that final whistle, actually until the ball is kicked out in the 80th minute. So are we saying that if we are ahead, say at half time, we're comfortable, or we still need to keep that pressure up because we know that they'll be gunning for us?
No, definitely keep the pressure. You don't want to write off New Zealand too early. At halftime, it's anyone's game. Even if we go into the halftime break and South Africa is leading, New Zealand are still in the game. New Zealand's leading, South Africa is still in the game. I think what will be the difference, as we've seen with previous box sides to play against New Zealand, is that if New Zealand blows us away too quickly, then it might be difficult for us to climb back onto the game. But for as long as they lead us by 5, 7, 10 points, we're still in the game. I think, though, Thando, can I just throw maybe a curveball? That humidity in Japan has been the big talking point, and New Zealand does struggle when they come to Joburg. So we should be the side that has an advantage of some sort when it comes to the weather conditions.
But you see, that also talks to how we're going to play. Rassi, for example, if you look at the Japan fixture, the warm-up game we played a lot of that match without the ball. And that was on purpose. It was intentional, whereby you need to be, it shouldn't be a foreign concept to you. When you don't have the ball, you should be able to play without the ball, which is a strength of this Springbok team. Defensively, we are sound. We've improved tenfold, I think.
Enormously,
and that is a good thing, I suppose. Even in those conditions, whereby a New Zealand team will say we can run them off the park. But no matter how much running and huffing and puffing you do, you need to score the points, and valuable points at that. A penalty is not enough. They need to score the tries they used to score back in the days, and they haven't been able to do that in 2 years.
Okay, so, I mean, there's so many talking points and so little time, but let's talk about lineouts for these two teams. I mean, lots of options there, a massive battle here. Take us through that structure there, Thando.
That's a difficult one for me, because I think that's where both teams are evenly matched. I mean, like, I've got proper line-out specialists who have done the business at the top end of the game for years now. A guy like Sam Whitelock is a wily old fox. You got young Barrett on the bench. It's a difficult one to call. Both teams have got great line-out exponents, and I don't know.
Can I say that I think New Zealand... Are
you throwing another spanner in the works?
Yeah, perhaps. New Zealand go into the encounter in terms of lineouts as the guys that have the better advantage at that, because they've been consistent. Whereas for us, it has been trying times, whether it was the thrower or it was the receiver. And I think the Springboks haven't really ironed that out. And perhaps that could be the difference between the winner and the loser, is who masters their lineout calls.
Talking about the winner and the loser, we're out of time. Tomorrow, Springboks, New
Last
Zealand.
time I was here, I said the All Blacks would blow us away. Not going to happen. It's going to be tight. And I see a black day.
Give us a winner.
Black day.
South Africa by 9 points.
Okay, cool. Well, we'll just have to wait and see how that will play out between those two teams. But now let's take a look at what we have next for you guys regarding the MTN